So in today's video, we're going to vibe code an employee weekly timesheet manager. So we're going to use Google Sheets for the backend to store the data. And then we're going to vibe code a HTML front end that will allow users to log in, log their entries, and then for admins to log in and approve or deny those entries. So let's start with our request here, and I have this in the description below. And so I'm not going to go through all of this, but basically go through what we're trying to do here. So manage weekly timesheets, and then a little bit about what I want it to look like, and then a little description on authentication. And then on the employee side, what they're going to see. So they're going to have a pending timesheet where they can add entries, they can review their pending ones, and at the end of the week, they can submit it, and then the admin can come in and approve or deny those. So we have then the different things on those details, and then we have the structure, and so user logins, and we have the column names, and the descriptions there. So kind of going down through there. So we're going to go ahead and let this start to run. And while that's going, we're going to go ahead and create our app script here. So we'll be able to drop that in. And so we know we're going to have at least one file for our backend code. So basically the way this works is this code and code.js, which stands for Google Script. This is going to interact with the Google Sheet. And then the web app, what it's doing is basically we're creating a mini HTML site. And so I'll just call this index. We may have to adjust this in a little bit, but then this is what we're going to create a link from. And this is what the user is going to access and use. So we'll call this timesheet application. And then we'll go from there once this is done generating. So, all right, so it parsed my request. So let's go ahead and start coding. And we'll let this take off. And while that's going, I'm going to explain real quick how the deployment works. So it's just a fancy word if you haven't used it before, but deploy basically means we're going to make this accessible. And so we do that using a new deployment, and that will give us a link that we can then share. And then from then on out, if we make any changes, if we happen to go back later, or just as we're working today and we go back and forth, we'll have to manage and update the deployment. So that way all those changes are now live. We're also going to use this test deployment, and this just allows us to save and then immediately see those changes instead of going through this deployment up here. But we'll get to that here in a second once we have some code to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and clear these out real quick and prep them for that. And so let's see what's going on here. So code.js, so that's what we have here. And then we have an HTML file. So if you notice when I created this HTML file, I only put in index. I didn't do .html. That gets added automatically because the script is going to get automatically .gs. HTML is going to automatically get that .html. That's just how that works. And so we have our code.js or our backend generating now. Once that's done, we'll be able to copy that in here and move forward to the next step. All right, so it looks like it's splitting this into two pieces. One is it's giving us a stub. If we come up here, we have some stubs for the admin side. So it looks like it's giving us the employee side, but not the admin side yet. So let's go ahead and copy this in here. And it's still working on that HTML. So while that's still finishing up there, let's go ahead and do our deployment because we have enough to deploy this, and then we'll just update it before we move forward. So on the deployment, we're going to click this gear icon and click web app. And then here, what we're going to want to do is execute as me. And then for who has access, you can decide if you have a Google workspace, you'll have an option to anyone in your workspace. Otherwise, if you don't have workspace, this is the options you're going to see. And so what you'll want to do is probably anyone. So if you did only myself, then you're the only one that's going to be able to access that link. And so we'll want to do anyone, or if you have a Google workspace, you can lock it to your workspace if that's appropriate. We'll click deploy. And now we need to authorize access. select our account. And this is just Google's legal disclaimer because they did not code this. So go to advanced, go to untitled project. And then here we need to select the permissions. So Gmail, because we're giving it access to send those emails, and to access to Google Sheets, so it can access our Google Sheet and add that data. And then finally, we're allowing it to run when not present to process any missed timesheets. So we'll click continue. And then once that's done, this is the actual live link that we'll be using from here on out. So we open this up. We're not going to see anything because the HTML is not in there. But that is the URL that you can share with your team, with your employees, so they can log in and use this. Now we need our HTML before this is going to work. And so if we come over here, looks like it's done. If we scroll down, looks like it got everything on there. And so copy code, and we'll paste this in here and hit save. Now to use the live version, we would need to update the deployment. But if we go to the test deployment and we open this link, all we have to do is save it, and then it's going to show up like this. So we don't have any in here yet. So let's add an admin. So we're going to call this admin, and we'll just put admin here and password 123, which obviously we would not use. And then put this admin role here and active. And so we'll call that good for now. So let's go ahead and refresh. And let's see if it lets us log in. It may not, because I think it said the admin part was just stubbed out. So let's check here. So username is in column C. Let's actually add a user. So 101, and we'll call this sample name and sample password of ABC. We'll call this an employee and active role. And then we'll just put an hourly rate in here. And then let's check this again real quick. So that would be sample and ABC. All right, so it looks like it lets us log in there. And so we have obviously some things here with this formatting that looks pretty goofy. But it looks like it allows us to put in a date here. Doesn't look like it gives us a drop down for selecting the time like in a calendar, but as this. So let's just check this out and see if it goes into the sheet. And so let me just put in 11/14/2025, put in 5 hours, and bring on this project. Let's see what happens if we save an entry. So there we go. We go back here, go to pending. There we have our pending time card there. And so let's look at the next thing. So we want to be able to access this from admin view as well. And so if we come down here, let's look at what we have. So next moves. And we'll let that work out while we're looking at this. And so one thing we'll want to do is make sure all this text is probably white, just so we can see it. And then let's see what happens if we log out. So that looks all right. Let's see if admin, it might still not be in there. So I think it's just apparently registering as invalid when it's admin, because that functionality is not built out yet. But let's see what happens if we come in back in again. ABC, we can log out. And there is our thing. So let's go ahead and adjust this real quick. Let's say we came back and decided to update this. We entered the wrong number there. So it looks like there it updated it. And if we come back to pending, it updated it here as well. So that part seems to be working fine. And so we just need to wait for ChatGPT to finish our admin updates. All right, so this got done here. So one thing with a more complicated project like this is it's going to give you patch style code, meaning it's not going to give you the whole file. And if you try to give it the whole file, it's probably going to run into kind of issues and going to take a long time. And so we are going to have to patch this in. And so this one will give us little details. So place near send email to admins. So, and this is in Code.js. So just make sure you're in the right file. And then probably down here, get submitted summary. We'll just search for this real quick. So send email to admins. So there we go. So you can kind of click on these and see it highlight where it starts. So you can kind of tell where you need to go. So we'll add that there, and I'm going to go ahead and save real quick. And then let's scroll down. So we need admin stubs, which is down here. So if you're trying to scroll through your project and you're having an issue because the color is white and hard to see, you can go to the Chrome Web Store and download Black App Script. And then it gives you these options here where you can change the color of what's displayed. And that just helps make it easier to run through like this and spot things. So if we come down here, we need to find this admin stub. Let me scroll past it. Here we go. So admin get submitted summary. This looks like we need to get rid of all these because we have this one right here. So let's copy this and delete that and then paste that in. And that added quite a bit of code there. So let's scroll down again and see what we have. All right, so front end. So now we're in index HTML file. So this one may be a little crazy here. So find this block in your HTML and replace it with this. So let's look for this. Okay, here we go. And there's one of those. So replace it with this. And so I'm kind of looking here, paragraph div. So that's that one. So I almost did this one, but I clicked in this and you can see that goes up to that div. So I want to go here and put that in. And then you can also right click and hit format and it'll kind of tab it as well. So let's scroll down again. Make sure Bootstrap is loaded. I think it should be, but so Bootstrap will come in. Let's see, script. Maybe it isn't loaded. Script. Yeah, I don't think that Bootstrap is loaded. So we'll copy that in. And we'll drop that here at the bottom. So it's basically another little script that's going to pull that in. And then find this part in your JS. So I'm just going to search for this. And do Control F. There we go. So if current user is employee. So I need to find the admin one. So else if admin. So this is the part that's confusing, right? So we need to do else if and then go to else. So just like that. And format document. Looks like it doesn't want to do it there. We'll go ahead and go on. Add below, but before the closing script. So we'll come down here. This will be just above the Bootstrap thing that we just added. So there's the Bootstrap. So it wants to be before the closing script. So let's talk about this one. So we'll come in there, paste that. And that one should be down to, there's that button, admin close details. All right, so it looks like that is all that we need. So again, I'm just gonna walk you through what it looks like to edit the deployment, because this is what you need to make it live for that link that anyone can use. And so I'll just put a little thing in here, edit admin section, deploy. And so that link is gonna stay the same as long as you do manage and update. You do new deployment, then this link will change. And so if people already are using this link and then you did a new deployment, they're all gonna be confused because their link is gonna stop working and it's because there's a new link. But at any point, if you wanna find that link, go to manage deployment, and then there is that web app URL, and that's gonna be the link that you need. Now, however, we're using this dev one, so as soon as we hit save, then it's gonna be live on this one. So hit refresh. And so let's just double check to make sure this is still working. And so let's go ahead and have it working on. We'll get it working on that while we go through this real quick. So let's go ahead and submit this timesheet just so we can see that there. So timesheet submitted, admin submit notified, which probably resulted in an error because I don't think we have an email for the admin. So let's go ahead and refresh this, and that should give us the login again. And then I'm wondering if the password can't be a number. So we'll check it out. We'll leave it 123 right now, and we'll see if it works. Admin 123. Yeah, so I'm thinking that what's happening is it's converting to a number, and so it's trying to convert text. It's comparing numbers and text, and I think that's what's happening. So let me do DEF here, DEF. All right, and that fixed it. So yeah, the issue is you don't want just numbers in there, and so obviously that's not going to be a password you're going to allow anyway. So that shouldn't be an issue. So let's look at this. So here's the employee. In my original, which I didn't go through, I wanted to be able to approve or deny from within this flow, because now I have to come down. I guess this is a decision: approve, deny, approve all. I guess it's not terrible. I was thinking originally we'd have approve, deny on each row, and we could have it do that, but we'll see how this works. So let's go ahead and just approve all and see what happens. Submit decisions. And it should move it from pending, oh, already did, to approved. All right. So I think I may have confused myself here. Oh yeah. Week start date. I had that in my pending sheet and I forgot to add it on the rest. So it kind of goofed up on me there. So let me manually fix this. Get rid of my extra column there. So that should be 100. And then make sure I got the same thing here. Week start date. All right, so the basic functionality is working. So let's see what happens here. We'll go back and index, find style, and this chunk at the end of it. So scroll up, take a look here. So here's our style. So basically the way HTML works is you have your HTML tag here, which is your full HTML, and then you have a head, which is kind of your style, some data around it, and then you have a body right here, and that's where the bulk of the stuff is, and then at the very end you'll have scripts and close it out. So here's the end of that style. So we're going to, I don't know if I copied this or not, but we'll paste that in and save. And then let's go ahead and refresh and see what happens. So let's go back to sample, and then this was ABC. Hit login and see what happens here. So now our pending sheet is down here under approved. So that is working. Let's see if we can do another one. So let's add this. Let's do 8 hours. Another project. Save entry. So it's still having these titles. So let me put that in there. And we'll let that work while we go through. So let's go ahead and submit this one. And then let's go ahead and log out and log back in as our admin. So I think it was DEF, is that right? Yeah, DEF. So log in. And then let's see here. So this will be the submitted one. And then there's a historical one. So that is great. So if we click on this, we have that entry. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So add this at the end. So we'll add that there. And then let's refresh. And we'll check out the admin side. And now that's coming through correctly. Now this is looking better. So let's log out. Let's go back in as sample ABC. and log in. So we can still see our pending one here and our approved one. So looks like everything's working on a basic level. So feel free to take this project and you can keep massaging it if you want to add more features, if you want to go into more detail on what you want to use and do with this. But this is a basic idea and run through of what you can do to create an employee weekly timesheet manager, if I can spell that correctly, in Google Sheets, and how you can use ChatGPT to help you flush this out and create a working application. So make sure to check out the other videos on our channel for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and AppScript. And as always, have a great day.